On the night of my wedding with Drew, I saw the tattoo on his body. It was a violet, the stem connected to the leaves, emerging from the hidden area below Drew's abdomen, with the tip extending to the most sensitive dimple on his lower back. Wild, sensual, and alluring. I felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over me, and all my fantasies vanished. I'm a very wild and solitary person, and my possessiveness makes it unbearable for me to see marks left by others on what belongs to me. Suppressing my anger, I confronted him. "Who is it that left this tattoo on you?" Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Drew did not respond. He lowered his thin eyelids with an indifferent demeanor. Our relationship hasn't reached the stage where we probe into each other's pasts. That really pissed me off. What does our marriage even mean? Just a union of convenience. Drew was actually right. The Cornelius family has been in business for generations, with traditional family values. When the young lady of the Cornelius family comes of age, she must marry into another family of equal status to form an alliance and secure benefits. The family elders have selected several candidates to be my future husband, but those men are either ugly or bald. Either they're rude and disrespectful in their words and actions, or they want to get intimate with me the first time we meet. Without exception, it all disgusts me. I'm sick of those people, and I'm sick of the rulemakers in power. I defied my father's rage and rebelliously refused everything, until at a business banquet, I met a man, Drew, City's rising business star. Unlike our families that have accumulated such wealth over several generations, he started from scratch alone and amassed considerable fortune in just a few years. Not only does he possess excellent business acumen, but he also has a tall, straight figure and an unusually perfect face. After brief interactions, I found that although his personality is somewhat aloof, he doesn't leer at me like other men do. His demeanor is distant yet respectful. I swirled the red wine in my glass, calculating in my mind. Those without a family have far fewer tedious traditional rules to follow. Just that face alone. One could never tire of looking at it for a lifetime. If I must marry, marrying him would be far better than wedding some toad of a man. After that banquet, I pestered him for a long time. As expected, he remained aloof and unmoved. So I rounded up a bunch of marketing accounts to fabricate all sorts of romantic rumors about him and post them online. Then bought trending hashtags. Then I told him, "See, a high-quality single man of a certain age will always be the target of unscrupulous media gossip. If you don't hurry up and get married, tomorrow they'll be spreading rumors that you're gay. Believe it or not." Drew. He got annoyed. So he finally agreed to me. He wanted peace, while I lusted after his body. The family also recognized his potential. The three parties hit it off immediately, yet this was the husband I had personally chosen. On our wedding night, as desires intertwined, this ambiguous and enchanting violet suddenly appeared. Although I have no emotional foundation with him, my feelings for him only go as far as desire. But after all, this man before me is the one I carefully selected from countless options. How could my man be a second-hand item marked by someone else? On the wedding bed scattered with rose petals, I traced that tattoo with my fingers. The color has faded a bit, probably left several years ago. The tattoo is quite rough, clearly not done by a professional tattoo artist. Did one of your little lovers use you for practice? Drew showed no expression. Not even glancing at me. He got out of bed and dressed, his slender fingers brushing over the violet petals as he buttoned his shirt. Gentle in motion, yet exudes sensuality. I couldn't hold back. "You look so serious. Never expected you to be this wild." Drew had already dressed, his expression cool. "I don't care about your romantic history. And you shouldn't be too interested in my past either. This was an indirect admission that it was indeed left by a former lover. After saying this, he left the bedroom. On their wedding night, she was actually abandoned by her husband, left alone in an empty room. I never fucking dreamed I'd actually experience something like this. I'm pretty wild and very much a loner. I can accept Drew having had women in his past. He's 29 after all. Not exactly young anymore. But of all things, he had to leave behind such an ambiguous mark. I can't accept this. Anger makes me impulsive. When I'm impulsive, I tend to lose my mind. I drove overnight to Cornelius's house, one of the companies under his umbrella. The Cornelius family, though traditional in their family values, has shown remarkable business acumen by venturing into numerous technological fields. One of their projects, recently developed, has yet to be unveiled to the public. It utilizes quantum entanglement to transmit information or matter, enabling instantaneous traversal across space and time. In simple terms, it's time travel. Although the technology isn't yet mature, I don't mind being the first to try it. I entered the control room and stepped into the operation pod. I want to go back to the past. I'm determined to find out who it was that got to taste Drew before me. After all, the technology isn't mature yet. On my first time travel, I arrived at the wrong time. The wrist controller displayed a date 21 years in the past. Following the publicly available media records of Drew's former residence, I found an old bungalow. Just as I reached the doorway, I heard the sounds of hitting and scolding coming from inside. Through the open door, I saw a disheveled woman, frantically beating her child with a broom. That was 8-year-old Drew. Outside the door, a few nosy neighbors were watching, clicking their tongues in disapproval. Drew's mom is having another episode these days. Poor Drew is going to suffer again. Sigh. I looked over, and immediately an elderly woman eagerly explained to me. His mom was originally fine, until last year when she found out Drew's dad actually had another family outside. All these years Drew's mom was kept in the dark, being the other woman. After the truth came out, that man ran away. Drew's mom went crazy. When she has episodes, she beats the child. No one can talk her out of it. That poor kid. I glanced toward the courtyard. Little Drew was beaten into a curled-up ball. I'm not one to meddle in others' affairs, but Drew is my husband, and I simply couldn't stand by watching him get beaten like that, even if the one hitting him was his own mother. So I walked in. Hello. I'm Drew's teacher. I'm here for a home visit. The woman who was holding a plastic stool about to hit Drew immediately stopped her movement. She turned around panting heavily and saw me, snapping slightly out of her frenzied state. Drew's teacher. Yes. Ignoring little Drew's surprised gaze, I smiled politely at the woman. Drew is very withdrawn at school and doesn't interact with classmates. I suspected there might be issues with his home education, so I came to visit. Now I see that's indeed the case. With just one sentence, Drew's mother flew into a rage again. What's wrong with my family's parenting? I'm teaching my child. Who are you? An outsider. To interfere? She screamed hoarsely, directing all her fury at me. How do you dress like a teacher? You're nothing but a seductress. Clearly, you're trying to seduce the students' parents. You. Slap. I didn't wait for her to finish speaking before raising my hand and slapping her hard across the face. The woman was stunned by my blow. Drew jumped up instantly like a little rabbit, running in front of the woman and glaring at me fiercely. Even though his mother had beaten him so brutally, when a villain like me appeared, he still didn't hesitate to shield her. How dare you hit my mother? And how dare your mother hit you? And how dare she scold me? I looked at the woman behind him. Doesn't feel good to be hit, does it? When you hit your son, you were much harsher than I was with you. The woman froze, looking down at Drew. Drew was covered in bruises all over, with one hand swollen badly on the back. That was from her beating him hard with a broom. Suddenly, she covered her face and began to sob. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Drew. Mommy is so sorry. I didn't want to watch her act of repentance, so I turned and left the small courtyard. I didn't come here for an 8-year-old brat. I couldn't afford to waste more time here. I didn't expect Drew to chase after me. He limped up to me, his pitch-black eyes staring straight at me. Who exactly are you? Why are you pretending to be my teacher? This little thing is just too adorable. I can't help but want to tease him. I'm a human trafficker, specializing in kidnapping children. You're so good-looking. You must be worth a lot. Drew indeed seemed a bit scared. He stepped back in panic, pressing his lips tightly together. A 29-year-old Drew would never make such an expression. Strangely satisfying. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. While Drew was turning to flee, I pressed the controller on my wrist, crossing over again. Only this time, the timing is still off. I sighed as I looked at the time displayed on the controller. The time had only advanced 6 years from the last jump. And now Drew is 14 years old. Outside the small courtyard, several burly men were cursing loudly. Damn it. Acting all high and mighty when borrowing money, but hiding like a coward when it's time to pay back. Think you can escape by not coming home? I'll show you. Someone brought a bucket of red paint, splashed it violently onto the outer wall, then picked up a brush and flamboyantly wrote the characters. Repay the debt. Drew had just returned from school to face such a scene. He seemed accustomed to such matters, his expression calm to the point of numbness. Amid the murmurs of the onlookers, I came to understand what had happened over these 4 years. Drew, his mother's mental health issues had grown increasingly severe. A year ago, she found Drew's father's home in a state of mental breakdown. She mindlessly set fire to the man's house, then without hesitation, leaped from the 13th floor of the high-rise. Under the horrified gazes of Drew's father and his wife, she used death to take revenge on that man. Paranoid, extreme, and foolish. This matter blew up big time. The affair that had been hidden by Zhang's father for years became public knowledge. His wife angrily divorced him. His company fired him. And the man who lost both family and career overnight began drinking heavily every day, even developing a gambling addiction and taking out high-interest loans. All thanks to that scumbag of a father. The debt collectors have come knocking more than once. Drew is only 14, yet forced to get used to such things. After the debt collectors left, a man wearing a mask and hat sneaked in furtively. As soon as he entered, he slapped Drew across the face. I've checked everything. Your mother left you some money before she died. Where is it? I'm asking you. Where is the money? Drew wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and remained silent. The man cursed in anger and kicked Drew hard again. Your mother was a filthy whore. And you're a little bastard. How far do you two have to drag me down before you're satisfied? Ha! Losers are like this. They never look for reasons within themselves, always pushing all the blame onto others. I couldn't stand it any longer. Pushing the door open, I walked in, grabbed a bottle from the table, and smashed it over the man's head. The man let out a howl, clutching his bleeding head as he turned around. Who the hell are you? I sneered coldly, picked up the ashtray, and swung it down hard at his head again. Who am I? You motherfucker owe us so much money and still dare to ask who I am. The man, covered in blood from head to face, was intimidated by me, thinking I was from a loan shark company. He panicked instantly. I already said I'd pay it back. Just give me a little more time. That little bastard's mother left him money. Once I get my hands on it, I'll pay you back immediately. Cut the crap. I feigned impatience and pulled out my phone. Second brother. Where are you guys? At East Street. All right. I've got him under watch. Hurry up and bring the tools over. By the time I hung up, the man was already trembling with fear. I really will pay it back. I swear. Just give me a little more time. Go talk to my second brother and the others. They're much easier to reason with. With that, I flashed him a sinister grin. The man was utterly terrified. He shoved me aside and bolted out the door, as fierce as can be with his own son, yet as cowardly as possible when facing debt collectors. I scoffed and cursed. Pathetic. Then I looked at Drew. From the moment I appeared, he has been staring at me. I said, "Do you still remember me?" Drew nodded. "I remember. Last time, you first said you were my teacher, then claimed to be a human trafficker, and now you've turned into a debt collector. This little brat has a pretty good memory. I've only come twice. The first time, I hit your mom, and the second time, I hit your dad. Aren't you angry? Since you hit my mom, she's never laid a hand on me again. As for my dad, he deserves it even if he gets beaten to death," Drew said calmly, ignoring everyone around him as he took out some medicated oil and applied it to the wounds his father had inflicted. His movements were practiced, as if he'd done this 1,000 times before. He paid no attention to me. After tending to his wounds, he went to the kitchen, scooped a bowl of rice, drizzled some soy sauce on it, and began to eat. I was completely stunned. "Is this all you're eating?" "Yeah," looking at his now excessively thin little frame. I remembered the muscular physique of Drew at 29. I lived like a stray cat when I was little. No idea how I ended up growing up like that later. I originally thought about just leaving, but seeing him like this now, how could I possibly leave? After all, he's the man who's going to be my husband in the future. How can he live so miserably? The next day, I rented an apartment near Drew's school. That evening, I intercepted him on his way home from school and pulled him aside. "I've already paid a year's rent. You'll live here for the next year. Don't go back to that place anymore." Drew was ice cold and ignored me. So I played my trump card. "You're about to take the high school entrance exam, but the loan sharks keep harassing your family, and that deadbeat dad of yours is always coming to you for money. With all these distractions, how can you possibly focus on studying? I helped you last time, but what about next time? And the time after that?" Drew stopped in his tracks. For the current Drew, studying was his only path to changing his fate. He was indeed desperate to get away from all of this. "What do you want?" he asked me. I smiled. "I happen to be staying here for a while and need someone to cook and do housework for me." "Deal," he said. Drew just moved into the apartment like that. The apartment is a duplex, with me living upstairs and him downstairs. Every morning, he would make breakfast for me before heading to school, and after returning in the evening, he would clean first and then prepare dinner. The kid is very skilled and meticulous in his work, and his cooking is delicious. I'm quite satisfied with this nanny. In the evening, he was reading and solving problems in the living room, while I quietly painted on the other side. It was a violet, the one on the waist of Drew, who was 29. I have a good memory. Just a glance was enough for me to roughly remember the pattern. A few days ago, we left each other undisturbed. It wasn't until a week later that the kid brother took an interest in my drawings and came over. "Why do you keep drawing this?" I thought for a moment and decided to tell the truth. "Because this flower will be carved onto you in the future." Drew frowned. "I won't let anyone leave such a thing on me." "Humph." He said it so resolutely. If I hadn't come from the future, I might have actually believed it. The next day, I was at home binge-watching shows as usual, waiting for Drew to come back from school. But I waited until very late, and he still didn't show up. The kid didn't even have a phone, so I couldn't contact him. I suddenly felt an inexplicable unease. I went out to look for him. I searched until I reached an alley not far from his school, where I saw him being pinned against the wall by that scumbag of a father, who had his hands around his neck. You really thought I wouldn't find you if you ran away. I might not know where you live, but I sure as hell can find your school. Hand over the money now. The man, driven to desperation by debt collectors, could care about nothing else now. His eyes, fixed on Drew, were bloodshot, filled with malice and madness. Seeing Drew being choked until his face turned purple, I was overcome with rage and rushed over to shove the man away violently. Are you out of your damn mind? How could you be so cruel to your own son? After saying that, I went to help Drew, who was coughing violently. Are you okay? You little rascal. Drew, before even catching his breath, he looked at me with visible anxiety. What are you doing here? If I hadn't come, you'd have been beaten to death by him. It's none of your business. Get out of here now. Suddenly, a sinister laugh rang in my ears. Damn bitch. You tricked me so badly that day. I've been looking for you for days and couldn't find you. Never thought you'd come to me yourself. The man, wielding a stick he'd picked up from who knows where, swung at me viciously. I instinctively pushed away Drew, who was trying to protect me. The stick struck my shoulder hard, and the pain made me cry out. The man grew even more excited, cursing as he hit me. You damn bitch. Think you're so tough. Last time you cracked my head open. Now let's see how I deal with you. Suddenly, the man froze in his movements. He slowly stopped what he was doing, turned around, and looked at Drew, who was holding a brick. You little brat. The man collapsed with a thud. Drew, after knocking the man unconscious, he didn't even glance at him, just dropped the brick and ran towards me. Are you okay? Good, your uncle. I'm almost in agony. It hurts so much I could cry. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens echoed in the distance. That jerk was hitting the child so loudly earlier. Surely someone must have called the police. Drew helped me up, his usually expressionless little face now filled with concern. Let's go to the hospital. What hospital? I have to leave right away. Just now. Drew's damn father hit the controller on my wrist and accidentally pressed the button. The return sequence will start in 3 minutes. Drew, unaware of the truth, furrowed his brows. Are you afraid of the police? Are you some kind of fugitive? Have you ever seen such a beautiful and elegant fugitive? I was in no mood for this. Anyway, I must go now. The coming years might be tough for you, but everything will be fine. Wait for me to see you again. With that, I stumbled to the intersection and turned left. Drew chased after me, but by then, I had already vanished from sight. Upon returning, I found the world was about to greet the dawn. Having traveled through twice, I even got injured, both physically and mentally battered. I was utterly exhausted, rushing home by car. I just saw Drew getting ready to head to the office. We crossed paths. I didn't have the energy to deal with him. Brushed past, and was about to go upstairs to sleep. Drew suddenly grabbed hold of me. Are you hurt? Oh, quite considerate. It's none of your business. Drew looked at me for a moment, pursed his lips, and pulled me to the sofa. Sit down. The 29-year-old Drew spoke with a stern face, looking quite imposing. I sat down and watched him go to get the first aid kit. Take off your coat. I silently took off my coat. The bruises on the shoulders and back were exposed just like that. How did you get hurt so badly? Drew drew a sharp breath. You should go to the hospital. Don't bother with all that trouble. It's not that serious. You can handle it. After all, you're used to dealing with such wounds. After all, this person had been beaten up quite a bit since childhood. Drew stopped speaking. He quietly applied medicine for me. Unlike his usual cold and rigid demeanor, his movements were gentle. I barely felt any pain. Before I knew it, I had fallen asleep. When I woke up, the sun was already high in the sky. Still groggy, I went downstairs intending to ask the housekeeper to make me some porridge. But the next moment I saw Drew. He was actually in the kitchen. 14-year-old him had cooked in front of me before. But 14-year-old Drew and 29-year-old Drew gave off completely different vibes. The tall and slender man usually always wears shirts and suits, appearing aloof and restrained. Yet now, dressed in loungewear and an apron, he cooks with his sleeves rolled up, exuding a comforting sense of homely warmth. In the pot, shrimp congee is simmering. The bubbling sound, accompanied by the rich aroma, fills the entire kitchen. I watched eagerly for a while, then obediently sat down at the dining table. The porridge was soon ready and served on the table along with the remaining 3 side dishes. Both the appearance and the taste were exactly the same as when he made it during my childhood. I took a sip of the porridge and tentatively asked, can I ask about your father? I'm a bit concerned about the 14-year-old Drew. I wonder what will happen to him after I'm gone. Dead. When I was 15, he drank himself to a brain hemorrhage. And before that, he said it calmly, but I could guess how miserable that year must have been for him. Just a child, yet has to endure so much hardship. Thankfully that bastard is dead. Though I know I shouldn't think this way. I still feel relieved for the boy Drew. After dinner, my mom called me. Xiao Yu, when are you and your partner planning to go on your honeymoon? Honeymoon? Drew and I haven't even had our wedding night yet. Just being able to have a meal together peacefully is already a miracle. What honeymoon are you even talking about? So I said directly, it's just a honeymoon. Not that important. There's no must-do about it. After hanging up the phone, I looked at Drew. He still showed no expression, but somehow I felt he seemed a bit irritated at the moment. He was getting ready to go to the company, heading to the bedroom to change clothes. I followed him. At this moment, his shirt buttons were still undone, revealing the smooth lines of his neck, with sharp and distinct collarbones protruding, and a small red mole adorning the lower right side. Damn it. It was irresistibly alluring. I couldn't help but walk over and undo each button he had just fastened. Drew frowned. Stop fooling around. I need to go to the office. I ignored him. Her fingers trailed along his firm pectoral muscles, gradually sliding down to his abs. She couldn't help but swallow hard, until all the buttons were undone, revealing his entire upper body, the tattoo on his lower abdomen coming into view. Just moments ago she'd been lusting, but suddenly she felt a pang of discomfort, unexplainable anger. I pounced on him, knocking him onto the bed, leaned down, buried my face in the crook of his neck, and bit hard on his collarbone. I bit with enough force to draw blood. A muffled groan reached my ears. Catherine, are you a dog? I sat up, licking the bloodstain at the corner of my mouth. Others can leave marks on you. So can I. Let's start with this bite. Tattoos fade, but scars never disappear. Drew gritted his teeth and stared at me for a moment before suddenly flipping over and pinning me beneath him. Do you really think I wouldn't get angry? It was an extremely intimate and suggestive position. I barely restrained my desire, poking at the violet with my finger. Get this tattoo removed. I can't stand the sight of it. Impossible. If you don't remove it, I'll scratch it to pieces. Blind with rage, I dug my sharp nails into the skin of his abdomen, clawing viciously. My fingertips met with a warm, sticky sensation. Drew clenched his teeth and endured the pain without a sound, pushing me away. Don't be so unreasonable. It's just a tattoo. He briefly bandaged the wound and put on his suit jacket, his voice low. Calm down for a bit. I'm going to the office. After saying that, he left again. I watched his car drive away from the second floor, gritting my teeth in anger. Damn it. Fucking second-hand man. The more dissatisfied I am with the 29-year-old Drew, the more I wonder who made Drew so unforgettable that even a tattoo symbolizing past love couldn't be abandoned. I stormed off to the company, traveling through time again. Damn it. The time was wrong again. Nowadays, Drew is 20 years old. He entered university. As an adult, Drew stands tall and slender with an outstanding demeanor. Cool, elegant, and strikingly handsome. Just by standing there, he captivates all eyes. I secretly followed him for most of the day until evening. As he was on his way to tutor, I emerged from a side path and fiercely pinned him against the wall. Drew was startled and raised his hand to push me away, but froze the moment he saw my face. Catherine. I was still angry at the 29-year-old Drew, and had no patience for the 20-year-old Drew either. It's your grand-aunt me. I'm back again. Drew picked up the book I had dropped and looked up to examine me carefully. I've always wondered, after all these years, why haven't you changed at all? Because I'm a monster, immortal and unchanging. Drew suddenly let out a laugh. This was the first time I'd ever heard him laugh. First a teacher, then a human trafficker, followed by a loan shark, and now you've turned into a monster. I remained silent. He asked again, this time, what are you here for? The first time he came, he hit his mom. The second time he came, he hit his dad. This time he came, surely he wouldn't hit him, right? I was quite annoyed. Catching an affair. It's not really accurate to call it catching someone in the act of infidelity. Drew is 29 years old. Not exactly young anymore. It's perfectly normal for him to have had other relationships before marrying me, if we really want to put it that way. If Drew had a girlfriend when he was 20, then I would actually be the one who's the other woman. But I just can't accept it. I yanked up his t-shirt, exposing his lower abdomen. His skin was pale, with well-defined abs and no tattoos. I let his shirt fall back down. The entire sequence startled Drew, his eyes widening. What are you doing? Nothing. How absurd. Drew lowered his gaze to avoid looking at me, the tips of his ears faintly tinged with red. Last time. Were your injuries serious? I'm a bit surprised. For me, it's only been a day, but for him, it's been 6 years. He still remembers. It wasn't serious. It's long healed. Drew's gaze falls on my neck. The edge of a medicated plaster was slightly visible there. Drew pursed his lips. I don't know which of your words I can believe. Cut the crap. I directly threw a room key card at him. Come see me tonight. In the future. I've already fallen a step behind. Now that I have the chance to return to the past, Drew has already come of age, and I must take the lead to reach his first base. That night, Drew came. As he walked in, I unabashedly displayed my sexy lace nightgown in front of him. Drew blushed instantly, lowering his gaze, not daring to look at me. That really amused me. I walked over and raised my hand to wrap around his neck. Calling you to the hotel in the middle of the night. Don't tell me you don't know why I asked you here. Drew, his Adam's apple bobbed, his voice slightly hoarse. I need to know who you really are and why you keep coming to me again and again. I'm from the future. The wife you married when you were 29. Under Drew's dazed gaze, I told the truth. You're 29 and keeping secrets from me, which makes me very uncomfortable. So I'm going to find out what your secret is myself. Drew clearly didn't believe it, and he was somewhat annoyed. Liar. There's not a single truthful word coming out of your mouth. Fine. Don't believe me then. The next second, I lifted Drew's clothes. This body was young and firm, without those annoying tattoos. Paired with that stunning face, it truly made my heart itch. I caressed his clean, smooth abdomen over and over. Drew was experiencing this for the first time, somewhat panicked, his body trembling continuously. When I reached out to touch the dimples on his lower back, he couldn't resist grabbing my hand. Catherine. No. I never expected the dimples on his back to be such a sensitive spot. I pressed closer to him, exhaling softly by his ear. You're saying I can't do it. No man can stand hearing those words. Gritting his teeth, he flipped me over and pinned me beneath him. Leaning down, I'll show you exactly who can't do it. To be honest, the experience that night wasn't great. As expected, you can't have too many expectations from a virgin. Drew was somewhat frustrated. It's okay. You'll get the hang of it with practice. I comforted him. The next evening, I called him to the hotel again. This time the experience was slightly better. Not bad. You're indeed a good student. I encouraged him. On the third day, he took the initiative to come to me. This time, I felt quite pleasant. After it was over, covered in sweat, I was about to go wash up. Suddenly, I felt someone embrace me from behind. Drew wrapped his arms around my waist, speaking softly. What are we now? I've already told you. I'm your future wife. Tell me the truth. This is the truth. Drew sighed, his tone resigned. If what you're saying is true, why would I wait until I'm 29 to marry you? Because before that, you had another unattainable love. I turned and pushed Drew away, poking his chest. Even after marrying me, you still can't forget her. Impossible, Drew said with certainty. I won't like anyone else. I scoffed. Men's words. Not a single one can be trusted. After I said those words, Drew remained silent. He didn't come to the hotel to see me for the next 2 days either. This person has quite a temper. After finally getting a taste of Drew, I was at the stage where I was just beginning to crave more. Not having it for 2 days made me miss it a little. So I went to his school to find him. Men, you just need to coax them a bit and they won't stay angry. Never expected to see him walking alongside another girl. The girl had long flowing hair, wore a casual sweatshirt, carried a drawing board, radiating youthful charm. She followed Drew, saying something with a sweet smile. Drew was unusually patient, listening quietly to the girl's words, occasionally curling his lips slightly. I stared blankly, somewhat dazed. Is it her? The girl who can paint? Was that Violet left by her? A sudden sense of suffocation welling up in my heart drove me to the bar in a fit of anger. After a few mojitos, my gaze settled on the toned male models gyrating around the pool. I looked them over and finally picked one who was slightly more appealing. I walked over and stuffed a bill into the collar of his shirt. Nice moves. Keep it up. The male model immediately beamed with joy and started dancing even more energetically. If Big Sister enjoys watching, then I'll dance just for you. See, isn't this kind of man who knows how to please you just wonderful? You're so good. I really like someone like you. Giggling, I was about to stuff the banknotes into his collar again. Suddenly, a hand grabbed my wrist. I turned my head and saw the furious face of Drew. You say you're my wife, but what are you doing now? I pushed his hand away and tilted my head to look at him. I'm your future wife, not your current one. You already have a white moonlight. Why bother with me? Drew froze for a moment. What white moonlight? I was too drunk to listen to him. Why did you come looking for me? Is it because I didn't pay you after sleeping with you the other day? And you got angry? I took out a wad of cash from my bag and was about to stuff it into Drew's collar. Here. You get your share too, Catherine. Drew seemed angry as he gritted his teeth and grabbed my hand. Snap out of it. I've been perfectly clear-headed. Okay. I also got angry. What do you have to be angry about? I'm the one who came to catch you cheating. Okay. Actually, I knew my anger was unreasonable. Drew just walked a short distance with that girl. He hasn't done anything yet. But the moment I see his face, the moment I think of that Violet, I just want to torment him, humiliate him, watch him rage, watch him cry. But Drew would never cry. I'd angered him so much that the corners of his eyes turned red, making his face even more alluring. I couldn't resist leaning closer. Come on, kiss me. Drew hesitated for a moment, then made up his mind and cautiously leaned in, gently pressing his lips to mine. As he was lost in the kiss, the male model who had been watching the whole scene suddenly laughed. Your kissing skills are too amateurish, little brother. You won't be able to please the beautiful sister like this. Drew's face instantly turned red. He pulled me out of the bar, on the bustling street. I watched his tightly gripping hand and his stubborn, annoyed back, feeling somewhat speechless. What are you angry about? What they said was the truth. The kissing skills really aren't that great. Drew suddenly stopped walking. Catherine, do you like me? I raised my hand to touch his cheek. I like this face of yours. Whether you're 20 or 29, this face is hopelessly attractive. I simply adore it too much. With a hint of vengeful intent, I withdrew my hand again. But you're indeed too inexperienced now, lacking in every technique except for this face. Nothing else about you is worth my liking. I chuckled and, without looking at him again, turned to leave. Drew suddenly grabbed me again and asked urgently, Are you leaving again? I've had my fill. It's time for me to go back. Drew's voice was hoarse and raspy, like a broken instrument. Catherine, you're truly awful. Yes, I am indeed awful. I admit it outright. I'll marry you in the future because I don't want to keep being pressured by my family to go on blind dates. I traveled back in time to find you because in the future, you bear someone else's mark. I don't like it, and I'm not willing to accept it. So I came early to sleep with you. Everything has been made clear. Drew looked as if he had been deeply hurt. With reddened eyes, he gradually loosened his grip on my hand. I thought he would yell at me or question me, but unexpectedly, I heard a trembling voice. Then, will you come back again? Somehow it felt like being a dog abandoned by its owner. I averted my gaze, suddenly not wanting to look at him. Depends on my mood. Leaving these words behind, I pressed the controller on my wrist and instantly vanished from the spot. I thought, since I had Drew's first time, I should be able to let it go. But I never expected that for many days after returning, the face of 20-year-old Drew kept appearing in my mind, over and over again. It was infuriating. I went straight to Drew's company. He never came home after leaving that day. I walked directly to the door of his office. Drew was holding a meeting with several staff members. At 29, he was not just good-looking, but more importantly, mature and composed. Even when someone made a major mistake, he didn't lose his temper or scold them. He merely furrowed his brows and offered a solution to make amends. His emotional stability was truly astonishing. I walked in and called out, "Honey, when are you getting off work?" A single husband startled everyone into looking up at me. The crowd looked at each other, then turned their gaze toward Drew. Drew put down the documents in his hands. His previously emotionless and stiff tone during the meeting softened slightly. Stop fooling around. I still have work to deal with. I walked straight over. Is work more important than your wife? Drew waved a hand at the staff. Everyone go back. The meeting will be held later. The crowd left the office. The last person out thoughtfully closed the door. The office fell quiet, leaving only me and Drew. When suddenly I felt a bit awkward. I fiddled with his pen and then moved the potted plant on the desk. You're quite busy. Yeah, I've planned a trip to Europe. Need to finish my work before leaving. To Europe. I was surprised. Are you going on a business trip? It's a honeymoon. Seeing my hand move from touching the potted plant to the cactus, Drew quietly shifted the pot to avoid my fingers. We actually planned it long ago, but you didn't seem interested. If you don't want to go, we can cancel. No. Of course we're going. This is a once-in-a-lifetime honeymoon. I cut him off. I suddenly felt my mood lift. I walked out with light steps. Drew suddenly called out to me. Have you had lunch yet? If not, let's go together. Aren't you very busy? There's still time to eat. As Drew and I walked out of the company side by side, all the staff were giving me curious looks. Passing by a desk, I saw an employee rapidly typing in the company group chat. Mr. Drew has been running the company for so long, but this is the first time a woman has come to see him. I heard before that Mr. Drew got married, and I thought it was fake news. I always thought Mr. Drew was gay. Am I the only one who came here to find him? Did his first love never come? Before leaving for the honeymoon, I wanted to resolve my final lingering thought. So once again I stood before the door of time and space. From the very first crossing, the time I set was 5 years ago. Yet each attempt had been wrong. But this time, I had a feeling it wouldn't fail again. Indeed. Now Drew is 24 years old. After graduating from college, he started his own business and set up a studio. Right at the most difficult time, I found his rented place and waited for him outside the door. It wasn't until very late, when I was almost falling asleep from waiting, Drew finally returned. Exhausted, I yawned and waved at him. Drew froze for a moment, then rushed over. He held me tightly and kissed me fiercely. 4 years. A whole 4 years. Catherine, why do you always make me wait so long? I was kissed speechless by him. After years apart, this man's kissing skills are still so terrible. But even with poor kissing skills, desire gradually welled up within me. Drew carried me into the rental house. As we kissed, I began unbuttoning his clothes. The moment they came undone, I looked down at his abdomen, clean and bare, with only well-defined abs clearly visible. Where is that flower? Drew's rapid panting echoed in my ear. What flower? The violet. Why hasn't anyone planted it for you yet? Drew somewhat speechlessly picked me up and placed me on the bed. Catherine, just how much of a scumbag will future me become? Well, I wouldn't exactly say scumbag, but I couldn't utter a single word. I reach up to trace the sweat-beaded corners of his eyes and brows. Come, let me check if your skills have improved. Improved my ass. The rented room was small and old, without even an air conditioner. After one round, I was covered in sweat and thoroughly annoyed. It's been 4 years. How come your skills haven't improved at all? Drew raised his hand, covering half his face with his arm. I heard his voice, extremely low, tinged with a hint of embarrassment. I only had those few experiences with you 4 years ago. How could I possibly improve? I burst out laughing right away. What are you talking about? How could that be? Haven't you been in any other relationships? Drew lowered his arm, frowning. Even though you were heartless and left without a word, in my heart you're still my girlfriend. How could I possibly go looking for someone else? Is the future me really that terrible? Do you have to think of me that way? It's the first time I've heard this person say such a long paragraph. He must have been really pushed to the edge. All right. I was wrong. I leaned in to give him a kiss, watching as his previously angry demeanor softened bit by bit, and prepared to coax him. Actually, it's not bad at all. It's still a little bit comfortable. Drew's eyes lit up. Really? Drew held me close, pulling the blanket over both of us with his other hand. Let's do it again. I shouldn't have praised him in the first place. As it turns out, Drew does have some natural talent in this area. Although I was a bit rusty after not doing it for years, I quickly got back into the swing of things. I was so exhausted that I didn't even want to move my fingers, and my voice was hoarse. He gradually slowed down but still held me tight. The next morning before leaving for work, he cautiously whispered in my ear, "Catherine, you won't leave, right?" Half asleep, I mumbled, "No, I won't. After all, I haven't had enough fun yet." The person holding me stayed silent for a moment before sighing softly, "Liar." I was so exhausted from the previous night that I ended up lazing in bed and sleeping the entire day. As night fell, I put on the black stockings and sexy little dress I had brought, ready to pick Drew up from work. But just as I reached the entrance, Drew returned. In his hand was a bouquet of red roses, vibrant and fresh. Seeing me about to leave, a shadow of darkness flickered in his eyes. "Where are you going? To the bar? Or leaving?" I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could say anything, he kissed me. "Don't go. As long as you stay, I'll do anything you ask." Anything. A mischievous thought suddenly crossed my mind. "Would you kneel for me if I asked?" Drew answered me with action. He carried me to sit on the bed, then obediently knelt at my feet, lifting one of my hands to gently kiss my fingertips. I am utterly shocked. Unimaginable. 29-year-old Drew was so aloof, even somewhat rigid. Yet 24-year-old Drew would actually make such a move. Such a stark contrast inexplicably excited me. I took out a rose and handed it to him. "Bite it." Drew obediently went to bite it. He held a flower branch between his lips, kneeling obediently at my feet. Looking up at me, the beauty's face was flushed with the vibrant hue of roses, long lashes trembling slightly, dark and moist eyes gazing toward me. The scene was truly intoxicatingly alluring. My heartbeat uncontrollably quickened. I lifted his chin. "Who taught you this move?" "No one taught me. I just suddenly remembered that you really like my face. I said I could do anything, as long as you stay." He gently took off my high heels, lifted my foot, and with a seriousness bordering on reverence, kissed his way up from my toes to my calf. Clearly, he wasn't comfortable with this either. His movements were awkward, his fingers trembling violently. He was forcing himself to be bold, pushing himself to be daring. He kept kissing me until he reached the side of my neck, then asked in a hoarse voice, "Catherine, are you happy?" I swallowed and nodded. "Happy? If you're happy, then stay." "You know that's not possible." I looked at him very seriously. "I don't belong in this time." I stared at those papers, lost in thought. They were the violets I had drawn in front of him when he was 14. I never thought he'd kept it all this time. He slowly unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his clean upper body, his eyes red at the corners, his voice hoarse and pleading. "I have a feeling, after this time, you won't come again. Just consider it fulfilling my last wish. Leave something on me, Catherine. Please." I gazed at his abdomen, feeling somewhat dazed. So it was me who left this mark after all. Learning this so abruptly, I wasn't even particularly surprised. As if my subconscious already knew. I've never done this before. It might be rough. It's okay. as long as it's left by you. I looked up a tutorial and picked up the tattoo pen. I heard that getting tattoos on the lower abdomen and side waist is the most painful. Drew kept his eyes fixed on me throughout the entire process, lips pressed tightly together. During the most painful moments, his body trembled violently, his sweaty hands gripping the sheets. Yet he didn't utter a single sound. I'm not very skilled, so the tattooing was slow. It took a full 6 hours to complete. I watched the violet blooming on Drew's lower abdomen, tracing the stem and leaves with my fingers, from just below his belly down to the small of his back. Drew, do you know what violets symbolize? Drew trembled. Yes, a love that lasts until death. How ridiculous. Clearly, I was Drew's white moonlight, yet I knew nothing about it and had been jealous for so long. Suddenly, I remembered something. Drew, you'll come find me later, won't you? Of course. When you come find me, you mustn't act as clingy as you are now. Recalling how the 29-year-old Drew was, I gave this advice to the 24-year-old Drew. You must be aloof, preferably indifferent to me, occasionally a bit impatient, and best of all, lose your temper with me. Drew froze. Was that how I treated you in the future? How could I possibly hurt you? This isn't hurt. I went to embrace him. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't be curious, wouldn't feel resentful, wouldn't get jealous, and there wouldn't be me crossing time again and again to find you. Before pressing the controller, I kissed him one last time. Husband, I'll be waiting for you in the future. It was already very late when I got home. As soon as I opened the door and walked in, I saw Drew. His gaze at me was no longer cold and indifferent, but instead filled with suppressed yet anxious emotions. Catherine, have you remembered? I nodded, then threw myself into his arms. It wasn't until the 4th time crossing over that I understood. Drew remembered everything, knew everything, yet pretended to be indifferent, approaching me, drawing near, leading me to meet his past self again and again. Drew had reddened eyes, holding me with such force as if trying to press me into his very bones and blood. I want to hold and kiss you every single moment, yet I have to keep restraining myself and pretending. If you don't come back soon, I'll truly go mad. I couldn't spare a word for conversation, entangled with him from the entryway all the way to the bed, too impatient to undo each button one by one. I simply tore them open with force. His 29-year-old body was much more solid than it had been at 24. Scalding, blazing hot. My fingers brushed over the scratches I'd left on his waist not long ago, the rough scabs making my heart clench. Honey, did it hurt back then? Drew smiled and said it didn't hurt. My hand moved to his abdomen again. What about when you got this tattoo? The tattoo artist wasn't very skilled. It hurt quite a bit. He paused as he spoke. But what hurts the most is those years we spent apart each time, and how only I carried the memories while you knew nothing, even suspecting I had been with another woman on our wedding night. Stop talking. The more you say, the more it breaks my heart. I turned over and straddled him, pressing my lips to his. Then, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to my husband. Okay. Drew smiled and hugged me. Okay. It's a deal. The rest of our lives. Before heading home, I went to see my father. From my father, I learned that the reason the family acknowledged Drew wasn't because they saw potential in Drew, but because Drew was willing to invest half of their fortune in the Timegate project being developed by the Cornelius family. Even many high-ranking members of the Cornelius family weren't optimistic about this project. Not long ago, Drew personally adjusted the machine's parameters. Suddenly, I realized that it was no coincidence that I had gone to the wrong time. 29-year-old Drew tried his best to find me. It was he who sent the 27-year-old me to his 8-year-old, 14-year-old, 20-year-old, and 24-year-old selves. Time and again, he sent me to redeem his past self. And in each encounter, I fell in love with him, eventually leaving that violet on him. Time finally formed a perfect circle at this moment. At one end is me, at the other is Drew. Love surges and swells. No matter how many partings we endure, new reunions will always come. This time, we'll never be apart again. Extra. During their European honeymoon trip, Drew seized the moment when Catherine was at her happiest and most carefree to ask a question that had troubled him for years. That year when I was 20. Why did your attitude change so abruptly after we slept together? Was it really because I was bad in bed? Can't blame him for being petty. Truth is, no man could stand such an evaluation. Catherine suddenly lost her smile, glared, and abruptly slammed the table as she stood up. You're asking me. It's because when I went to your school to find you, I happened to see you walking with a beautiful girl carrying a drawing board, and you were smiling at her. I instinctively thought the violet on you was planted by her. How could I possibly feel good about that? Drew pondered for a long while, still feeling dazed. Back in his school days, his personality was unbearably dull. He would take on part-time jobs whenever he had free time. Forget about classmates of the opposite sex. He barely even spoke to those of the same sex. Wait, carrying a drawing board. Are you talking about Corinne? I don't care what her name is. Drew saw that Catherine was genuinely getting angry, so he quickly pulled her into a hug to comfort her. You saw wrong. That was a man. My professor's son. He was also good friends with someone he'd known since college. Catherine didn't believe it. Drew thought it over and over, and could only show Catherine a shirtless photo of Corinne with a hint of jealousy. He only let her take a quick glance before immediately taking it back, afraid that Catherine, being such a looks-obsessed person, might develop feelings for someone else if she looked too long. With the misunderstanding finally cleared up, he pretended to be angry, making Catherine coax him for quite a while. He ate to his heart's content. Drew and Catherine's honeymoon trip hurt Corinne the most. Drew's private IG account only has a few people who can be considered friends. Corinne is the only one who's single. He wants to curse every time he checks his friends' social media updates. What kind of decent person posts a dozen grid-style lovey-dovey photos every single day without fail during their honeymoon? He's practically choking on all the lovey-dovey content. He directly called Drew, who is currently traveling in Barcelona. Not a single word of complaint was spoken. Only blessings. So what does our marriage even mean? Corinne couldn't help but ask again. I've always wondered. You and Catherine got married after just a few meetings. How could you fall so desperately in love? You wouldn't understand. Drew held his wife in his arms, feeling that no amount of hugging, kissing, or loving would ever be enough. Her existence spans my entire life. Then one day later, Catherine also got a tattoo. She had it inked on her shoulder. It's a Mobius strip. The tattoo artist asked her why she wanted this tattoo. Catherine thought for a moment and said, because it symbolizes infinity, and also eternity. The beginning and the end intertwine and entangle. Cycle after cycle. Never ceasing. Never ending. Just like her love with Drew.